Sure. Yeah. Hi, guys. Is everybody having a good day? Yeah, sure. That makes it. So, my name is Miss Sahaski, which is a really long last name, so you can call me Miss S. And I am so excited to be here. I guess, I'm here because I love reading. Do any of you love reading? Few people? Yeah, you love reading? I love, yeah, I'm not familiar with that one. Dr. Seuss. Oh, he's one of my favorites. Are some of the rest of you readers too? No. Well, today's a great day to find out if maybe you like it. Well, maybe you'll get a second one. You'll learn how to read today. And we just wanted to be here because I love reading, and the opportunity to have you meet a real live author and be able to hear him talk about writing a book and reading a book to you just was such a great opportunity. We just wanted to share it with you. So thank you so much. Now, I am going to bring up Miss Chapla, who's going to help with the book today. And I think we're going to try, and this is where technology comes in. We're going to try and dial Mr. Wenzel.
Good morning. Well, I was a teacher for 37 years. It's probably longer than your parents. They're probably not even 37 years old, are they? Right around that, maybe? One of your grandmas is? Yeah? So you could call me Miss Chapla, but right now, pretty much what I do with my life is I'm Grandma Sue. I have 9 grandchildren. So, 9. Yes, and I say 9 is fine. So anyway, if you want, you can just call me Grandma Sue. So once the author and the illustrator comes on, I think he's going to read the book, and I'll hold up the picture so that you can see.
Hey! Hey, how are you? Morning, nice to see you. All right. So, I am in Brooklyn, New York, in my home. Where are you guys? All right, excellent. Okay, so are we ready? Are we ready to begin here? Are we going? All right, perfect. Okay, so I think you know I'm an author and illustrator, right? You've heard this before? Yeah. Excellent. All right, so I've tried this experiment a bunch of times, but never with a camera, so it will be interesting, but we're going to do it here. So can you raise your hand if you have a pet cat? All right. Okay, hands down, please. Okay. Now raise your hand if you've ever seen a cat, if you've ever had some kind of experience with a cat, maybe even just a photograph or a picture. All right, that's everybody, right? Okay, here's where things get a little bit more interesting. Okay, raise your hand if you think the cats are cute. Okay, hands down, please. Now raise your hand if you think cats are a little bit creepy, kind of creeping around. All right, now raise your hand if you think the cats are boring, not doing that much, sitting in a window, kind of laying around all day. Okay. Now, raise your hand if you think the cats are really, really interesting. Right, okay. So this was really interesting to me, because if you looked around the room when I was asking those questions, everyone raised their hands for different answers, which means that you are all seeing something different when you look at a cat, because you've all had very, very different experiences when it comes to cats. So you have different points of view when you're looking at that animal. So I thought this was a really cool idea, and I wanted to make a book about it. So I made this book called They All Saw a Cat. So what I would love to do today is I'd like to read the book with you guys, and I'll tell you a little bit about making the book, and then maybe we'll take some questions. Does that sound good? All right. All right. Here we go. They all saw a cat. So this is called our book jacket. This is the book jacket. I'm going to take this off now so you can see. This is your book jacket. And then this is called the bookcase. And if you look on They All Saw a Cat, these two things are different. All right. So we're going to start with our end papers. Everyone see here? Yes. All right. Here's our end papers. Thank you so much. And I wanted the audience to look at the end papers, and I wanted to make an image that everyone might see something a little bit different. So sometimes when I ask, kids will say they see hair. Some people will say they see a fingerprint. Some people will just say they see a lot of little lines, and there are no wrong answers. Okay. They all saw a cat. All right, so there's a really wonderful musician who made a song about this book. And when she sings this song live, she does this really cool thing. So the first line in the book, and it's a line that appears throughout the entire book, is, "The cat walked through the world with its whiskers, ears, and paws." And so when she does this live, all the kids go like this. Whiskers, ears, get my ears down here, ears, and paws. So when I read these lines, can everyone do this with me? So let's try it here. The cat walked through the world with its whiskers. Okay, let me see those whiskers. Perfect. Ears. Ears up top. And paws. Perfect. Everyone's got it. All right. Here we go. We'll do it one more time. The cat walked through the world with its whiskers, ears, and paws. And here we see this cat, and it's heading off, and keep your eyes peeled for this little red collar and this gold bell. And the child saw a cat. Well, this is interesting. What does this cat look like? Kind of friendly, right? Staring up at its human buddy, sort of smiling, maybe a fluffy cat. So who else is going to see this cat? Who else might see a cat? And the dog saw a cat. So what's happening to our cat? What's happening to this cat? It's stinking a little bit, right? Kind of skinnier. Maybe this cat's looking a little bit creepier. I don't know. Depends on your point of view. And the fox saw a cat. Yes, they all saw the cat. Now our cat's looking a little bit different again, right? A little bit plumper. Maybe a little bit more delicious. All right, here we go again. You guys are up. The cat walked through the world with its whiskers, perfect, ears, and paws. And now our cat's walking back off into the world. Who else is going to see the cat? And the fish saw a cat. And the mouse saw a cat.
That's creepy. Okay, so the cat would eat.
A little scary. Let's move on from that one. And the bee saw a cat. Yes, they all saw the cat. All right, you're up again. The cat walked through the world with its whiskers, ears, and paws. Perfect. And the bird saw a cat. Say that there are 5 animals hidden somewhere in 5 secret things to find that only you and the bird can see. And the flea saw a cat. And the snake saw a cat. And the skunk saw a cat. And the worm saw a cat. And the bat saw a cat. Yes, they all saw the cat. Yes, they all saw a cat. And what's happening here? So this is a cat made up of all the different ways we've seen it throughout the entire book. And you can go through and find all the different points of view from all the different animals. You've got the bat, the bee, the flea, the worm. All right. And who saw the cat? A child and a dog and a fox and a fish and a mouse and a bee and a bird and a flea and a snake and a skunk and a worm and a bat. The cat knew them all. They all knew the cat. So who else is going to see the cat? All right, one last time. Here we go. And the cat walked through the world with its whiskers, ears, and paws. Perfect. Everyone got it that time. Then it came to the water. And imagine what it saw.
The cat saw itself. The cat saw the cat. The cat saw it.
And then move on. Collar. Where did the cat go?
I don't know. Just a bit.
And then we started. All right. The next day I saw a cat. You guys did a great job. Give yourselves a round of applause. It's the perfect distribution applause. So this was a really, really fun book for me to work on because I've loved animals since I was your age. And so to work on this book, what I would basically do is read everything that I could about how an animal would see the world. So I would read about bees, and I would read about bats, and I would read about snakes. And then the next morning I would wake up and I would start to make a piece of artwork from the point of view of that animal. And I would try to imagine being that animal. I would get into character. I would imagine being a little mouse or being a snake. And then I would open up my art bin. You guys have an art bin? Okay, well, this is a really fun thing to do. So I've got this art bin and I had all my art supplies. And so once I was in character as all these animals, I would open it up and I would think about how I wanted to make a piece of artwork. So when I opened it as a flea, I didn't want to use paint. I wanted to use colored pencils. Do you guys know these colored pencils? I would use colored pencils. And when I opened it up as a snake, I thought about seeing a snake, how a snake can actually see heat. Some species of snakes can use their tongue, and they sense this thing called thermal radiation, and they can actually see heat moving off an animal. And I thought about this, and I thought, oh, I don't want to use colored pencil. I want to use paint, like these acrylic paints. And I did the same thing for a bee, and for a bee, I used watercolor. And so I got to use all these really, really cool, fun materials. And there were actually a lot of mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes when I was working on the book, or pieces that I wasn't quite happy with. But I think it's really important to know that illustrators and people who make books make mistakes all the time, or make pieces that they're not quite happy with. But those are all these great opportunities to learn and go forward. So you don't have to make a perfect illustration or a perfect picture all the time, because every picture is a chance to share something with people around you. And I think that's a really, really important idea. So what I want to do, and what I'm tempted to do, is go through every single page of the book and tell you why I did everything, and tell you all about the animals. But my hope for the book is that the reader or the audience is going to put it down, and they're going to have lots and lots of questions. And those questions are going to lead to conversations. You're going to want to talk it over with your class and with your teachers. And that's my highest hope for the book, is that you guys get to have a lot of fun conversations because of the book. So I'm going to leave it there for right now. And then I'll take some questions about being an author and an illustrator. And then I have a really, really special announcement for you guys. Does that sound good? Yeah. Okay, thanks. All right, so should we take some questions?
How did you draw the snake?
How did I draw the snake? So the snake I created with, I think, acrylic paint and then cut paper in the background. So I made the shape of the snake with acrylic paint. And then acrylic paint is called opaque. So you can put it down. So I can put a dark color down, and then I can put a light color over it. So I took a dark color and made the shape of the snake. And then I took a white acrylic paint and I made those scales. So I went boop, 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 boop. I took a paintbrush just like this one, and I went boop, 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 and made the scales of the snake. Thank you for the question. That was a great one.
Let's go back here first. Stand up.
How did you make the cat?
How did I make the cat? Well, the cat I made all different ways. So on every spread or every page of the book, I made the cat in a different way. So on some pages I used colored pencils. On some pages I used acrylic paint. I used oil crayon, watercolor, cut paper, charcoal, pencils just like the ones you guys probably have in your desks right now. So I used all sorts of stuff. So yeah, great question. Thank you.
Who's next? Let's see. Okay.
How long did it took you to make the book?
That's a really good question. So this is important to remember when you guys sit down to make your own books. Making a book takes a really, really long time. I think a lot of people think that as illustrators and authors, we just sit down one day and we have an idea and we make it very quickly. They All Saw a Cat actually took almost 2 years to make. So I had to write the book, and then I had to send it to an editor, and they had to look at it. The editor is like my collaborator. They're kind of like my teacher, and they help give me ideas about how to make the book stronger. And then I make sketches for the final pieces, and then they give me comments on those. And then finally I make final artwork, and final artwork takes about 6 months to 8 months, and then I send that away and they send it back. So it's a really, really long process. And then when you finally get the book, you're so excited because you've been working on it for so long. It's a great question.
Let's try a question over on this side.
Hey, how are you?
How did you make the bee?
How did I make the bee? Let me think. So the bee background, when you see the cat in the bee spread, I used watercolor. So I took watercolor and I put it down in, I used a lot of paint on the brush because I wanted you to see texture in every single dot. So in every single dot on the bee spread, you see a little bit of movement. And I wanted to get that effect, so I used watercolor paint. And then for the bee itself, I think I used acrylic, watercolor, and then I also used cut paper. So if you look at the bee's wings, I cut out translucent paper that you can see through, so you can actually kind of see through the bee's wings. You can see that? Okay, cool. All right, great question.
How do you make the cats, all different kinds?
Can you say that again, please? Sorry, I missed that.
How did you make the other cats with the collars on it?
With the...
Collar.
Oh, with the collars on them. I think I've pretty much listed all the different materials that I've used. So the process that I used to make the cat was pretty much everything you can imagine. I think there was actually a list in the back of the book. If you're interested in exploring those materials on your own or trying to make a piece of artwork with them, you can look in the back of the book and it will say all the different materials I used. All right, great question.
How did you make with all the colors on each side on the cat?
How did I make all the colors? Well, I'll buy different tubes of paint. So I can show you, I've got all these different tubes of paint that come in different colors. So I'll have one blue, but then I also have different colors of blue that I use. So these are all different blues that I'll use. These are oranges and reds. These are all different oranges and reds that I'll use. But then if I can't find the right color, then I'll mix them up. And so this is one of the things you learn how to do in art school, and you guys actually might be learning how to do it in school right now. If you combine two colors, like if you combine yellow and you combine red, you can make orange. So a lot of the time if I say, oh, I want a red, but I want it to have a little bit of orange in it, I'll take a little bit of orange and mix it in with a red till I find the perfect color. Does that make sense? All right, great question.
Why did you pick a cat? Why is the story about a cat rather than a dog?
That is a great question. So I there were a couple other animals that I thought about using. I really like foxes, so I thought about using a fox at one point. I thought about maybe using an owl, but I thought it was really important that everyone who read the book already had some kind of reaction to whatever animal I picked. So I wanted to pick an animal that was familiar, something that everyone had some kind of experience with. And so I did think about a dog, but there was something about cats that I really like. And cats are a little bit mystical. There's something very interesting about cats. And when you see one moving through the world, there's just something a little bit more mysterious than a dog. And so I thought it worked well for that reason. And then also with animals like the mouse or smaller animals, a cat can be a predator, and it can be something that's very scary for those animals. And I think it's a little bit scarier than seeing a dog. So I liked a cat because it was really familiar, it was kind of mysterious, and there were all different ways of seeing it. The points of view about a cat were going to be very, very diverse. Great question.
How'd you do the fox?
How did I make the fox? The fox I made with watercolor paints, so a lot of orange watercolor paint, and then the fox was a lot of cut paper. So if you look at the fox, you can see, especially like around the neck fur, you can see these sharp edges, and those are made with a scissor. So I'm cutting the shapes out, and then I'm gluing them together. Can you see that? All right.
Yes, our volunteer is actually showing the pictures as you're talking about each animal. So.
Oh, fantastic. Wonderful. Thank you.
Oh, yes. Why don't we ask a teacher to ask a question?
That would be great.
So I like to draw in my spare time, and I'm working on a picture book, or actually it's a juvenile easy book, and I'd like to illustrate part of it. And I'm curious, what brand of colored pencils do you prefer?
That's a great question. I tend to not have a ton of brand loyalty. I actually will inherit a lot of materials when people go to art school, or they're cleaning out a garage. They'll say, "Oh, I have this whole colored pencil set. Do you want it?" And I always take them, and I always use them. I think the one that I do gravitate towards the most is Prismacolor colored pencils. Prismacolors are really great because they're very soft, and you can get a beautiful line with them. The one issue with Prismacolors is because they're so soft and you get such a nice line, they're also very fragile. So there's a big running joke between a lot of illustrators that I know that if you're using a Prismacolor color pencil and it rolls off the table and it hits the ground, it's probably no good anymore because it will break inside the pencil. So they're a great pencil, but you just have to be careful with them.
Good to know.
Have you used those before?
I don't have as much experience with Prismacolors. I've just been kind of experimenting and not liking what I'm getting with the texture or the softness of the line, or just not laying down a firm enough color. So I have to go over it too many times and I wreck the paper.
Yeah,
I'm experimenting.
I would try Prismacolor. I think they're a fantastic color pencil if you don't drop them.
And I have 2 small children, so the odds of that are slim to none.
Okay, let's go back here. Yeah, does somebody have a different question rather than how something was painted? Oh, somebody want to ask where he lives and what kind of house he lives in?
Where do you live?
I live in the city of Brooklyn, New York, which is right next to Manhattan. Which have you guys heard of New York City? Has everyone heard of New York City? All right. So I live right near New York City, and my wife and I live in an apartment. So I'm trying to see if I can actually do this. So this is my kitchen. That's my closet. That's a painting that my wife did. And then that's my room. And those are my plants. And this is
he's
an animal
very
called
lucky he has a second room for a bedroom, because not everybody in New York City has a second room for a bedroom.
Yeah, we're very lucky. So we live in a pretty small apartment. You saw the whole thing, but that's That's where I work, and then I'm sitting at my desk right now, which I would show you, but it is very messy because I have all my art supplies out to show you. So,
Do any of you guys live in an apartment? Yeah.
really, it's fantastic. I love living in an apartment. I
Okay.
like living in an apartment because when I'm sleeping at night and my wife's not around, I think about all the other people on all the different floors, and I go, "Oh wow, this is really cool. We're in a big building together."
And your neighbor, not just like
Did you hear that?
Exactly. The neighbor's right next door. If you need a cup of sugar or some jam, they're right there. All
Okay.
right, great question. Thanks for asking about where I live. All right.
Any other
Does
different
anybody have any
questions?
questions about any of the animals from the book?
Oh, any questions about any of the animals from the book? Okay. You know, he keeps not raising his hand, but there's somebody here who I know was really excited when he heard what your name was. So, do you want to introduce yourself?
Brendan.
Hey! Hey, Brendan, how's it going? It's always nice to meet another Brendan. How do you spell it?
Spelled the same way.
Spelled the same way. All right, even better. Well
How-
played, sir.
How did you make the bat?
How did I make the bat?
Hello.
So for the bat spread, I used the same materials, but I thought about how a bat might see the world. So does anybody know how a bat sees the world? They have a very special sense. Does anyone know the name of it? Maybe in the red dress you're standing up?
Here?
Yes.
How does a bat
How does a
see the
bat see the
world?
world?
When the bat's flying, how does he see at night? Do you know?
He has.
Yes. You think he sees with his eyes? You think he sees with his eyes? Oh, well, why didn't you ask the author how he sees? I bet he has a surprise for you there.
Yeah. Yeah.
How does a bat see?
So the bat has those big ears, and those are very important. So a bat has this special sense called echolocation. So echolocation is really, really cool. So if you imagine being a bat and you're waking up for the day, or waking up for the night, and you kind of get out of your hollow tree that you're sleeping in and you fly off into the night, it's going to be kind of tough to see because it's dark outside, right? So what a bat does is it starts to squeak. So we'll fly around in the night and we'll go squeak, 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 squeak. And those squeaks, if you ever used a bouncy ball before, those squeaks are just like a bouncy ball. And they squeak off into the night and then they'll bounce off something. So maybe a tree or the ground or a mosquito. And then they come bouncing back to the bat. And then the bat starts to put together a picture or kind of a map of its world to figure out where everything is. And this sense helps a bat fly around at night and catch food and do all sorts of stuff. And if you read about it, it's so much more interesting than what I'm describing. It's really cool to learn about. But so on the bat picture, I wanted to try to create my version of how I think a bat might see the world. And so I thought about making a map, and I thought about being at night, flying around at night, and I thought about the stars. And so I made this image of a bat and the stars.
So does everybody see the picture here of the bat looking at the cat there? So what did he do there with all the dots? Why did he do all the dots? Who can figure that out? They're the stars. You haven't raised your hand yet. I'll let you try. Why do you think he did the cat with all the dots?
He said squeak.
That's right. Yes. He hit the cat, right? Good
Right.
job.
And I can actually, let me see if I have a piece of paper I can actually show you. All right. So, let's say this is our sky, and I'm a bat, right? And I'm gonna fly around at night. We'll do orange dots. So say I'm flying around at night, right? And I say squeak, and I say squeak, and the squeak hits a place, hits a point. And then it comes back to me. And I say, squeak. And it hits a point, and then comes back to me. And I say, squeak. And it hits another point. And I thought about all those little points. Let's see if I can do a cat here. Eventually, might start to make the shape of a cat. But there's something really important to remember here, too. Every piece of artwork in this book is kind of my point of view. So this, I'm not saying maybe this is the way that a bat definitely sees a cat. This is my point of view or my interpretation. So what I'm really excited about is when you start to think about how a bat sees the world, and when you start to read about it, maybe you'll think the bat sees the world in an entirely different way. Maybe you'll say, oh, Mr. Wenzel, I don't think that that's how a bat would see the world. I think a bat might see the world like this. And maybe you'll make your own image. And neither of those images are right. They're both our point of view and our perspective on how we think a bat might see. Does that make sense? Yeah, all right.
How are we doing on time? Okay, maybe one last question, and then I'm going to let the author talk for just a couple more seconds. Oh, my goodness. I was very excited, kids, for one last question. But I'm going to go with you. Oh, okay, well, okay, two. Okay, we're going to start with you first in the blue, and then we'll go back in the back. It's so hard. I promise. Everybody is... You guys can ask your teachers questions all day. They're going to love it.
When did you make the book?
When did I make the book? Great question. So, I actually made this book a pretty long time ago. But because books take so long to make, it only came out last month. So I started making this book, I started making the pictures almost 2 years ago. I started making the pictures for the book. But then the book was released at the end of August. So the book came out on August 30th. So that's how long it takes to make a book. Pretty long, huh?
How old were you guys 2 years ago? 4, 5? Yeah. Okay, last question.
What are you from?
Can you say that again, please?
Where are you from?
Where am I from? So I grew up in the state of Connecticut, and then I came to, I've lived a lot of places. So I'm from the state of Connecticut, then I went to art school in Brooklyn, then I moved to California, then I moved to Brooklyn again, then I moved to the country of Vietnam, then I moved to Brooklyn, then I moved to the country of Nepal, then I moved to Brooklyn, and now I live in Brooklyn. But those are all the places that...
He's lived more places than you guys are old.
Pretty crazy, huh? All right.
I'm
Well-
going to turn it back over to you, Brendan. Mr.
All right,
Wenzel.
well, I'd like to thank everybody for being such a great audience. You've been so much fun. This has been such a blast for me. And so I have a really, really special announcement for you guys. And I'm really excited to tell you. So, because of a very... Well, first of all, did you like the book? Did everyone like the book? All right. All right. Would anyone like a copy of the book? Do you guys think it would be fun to have your own copy of this book? All right. Well, because of one really, really kind person in your city, every single one of you gets to take a copy of this book home with you today. You're all getting a copy of this book. Thank you. I'm so glad we got to spend this time together. This was a lot of fun. I don't have them. Someone
I was thinking who to give the first book to, and I think we need to give it to the person with the same name. Who has the same name as the author?
Brendan!
All right.
Why don't you stand up and hold the book?
All right.
Oh, it's right behind. Smile, Brendan.
All right, Brendan.
Are you sure? Oh, well. It says right on here, good things happen to readers, so I need to find a reader. Are you a reader?
I love.
Do you read a lot? Oh, well, then you should have one. You read a lot? You do?
I have a lot of
Who loves it? Who loves to read? You love to read? Who are you going to read this book to? Your mom. There, you get one. Who's going to read it to their little brother? You're going to read it to your dad? Who's going to read it to the neighbor next door?
Okay.
Now, who's going to read this to their cat? You're going to read it to your dog? All right, that's a good idea.
Well, that's a good idea.
Your mom? Okay. Okay, most important, who's going to read it to their grandma? You're going to read it to your grandma? You're going to read it to your
You're already reading it?
How about a grandpa? Anybody have a grandpa that can read it?
And there's some behind you too.
What? They bought these books from Schuler Bookstore.
Thank you. This has been so much fun. I wish you for the books. Yeah. Bye, everybody. Great to see you. For the books. Well, I guess I'm going to sign off now then, all right?